Hi, and welcome back to the Drama Free Healthy Living podcast. I'm your host, Jess Cording. And today we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is travel snacks, and specifically travel snacks that fight stress, another of my favorite topics. So, you guys have given me some great feedback that you love the interviews, but you would also like to hear more episodes that are tips, tricks, tools. So, I felt like this would be a really fun one to dig into a little bit. It's a question that comes up so much in my work as a dietitian and health coach. How do we stay on track with healthy habits when we're traveling? And I think that it's really important to enjoy life and have new experiences and indulge in things that are, interesting to us or that are meaningful to us, just that bring enjoyment and pleasure. That's really important. But I also think that, especially, when we're in high stress situations like travel, there are things that can help us feel better physically and mentally. So, prior to the pandemic, which it's wild to think that as we're recording this, it's now about 4 years in the rearview mirror, which is just like nuts. Sometimes I feel like I went to bed in 2020 and woke up all these years later, like, in a different state with a different hair color and a totally different life. And like I'm married now. And it's like, what happened? Like, what a portal, right? But I used to travel at least once a month for work prior to all the lockdown, and it's been interesting to see things start to open up again. And for myself, that has included a little bit more travel, not nearly not nearly as much as it used to entail. But I used to love talking with clients about travel hacks. Like, there was a time in my life where I was spending a lot of time in the corporate wellness space, where so many of the clients and patients that I saw in those settings were traveling every week. They were entertaining clients. They were having to, go on all these different work trips, whether they were solo or with a group or going to conferences. So it was a trade shows. That was another big one. So there's a lot going on. And when whether we're going on vacation for pleasure or if we're going to a work event, we want to feel good. And, there's something about travel, especially air travel, that can just be so just draining. And, we know that it is, depleting our energy reserves. We know it's dehydrating. It's often we're required to get up at weird hours or stay up till weird hours. And then food options are different than what we might be used to in our day-to-day life and more expensive. But also, if you're on a road trip, my husband, this one story, oh gosh, when his grandmother passed away, the poor guy, he drove, I forget how many, if it was 14 hours to where he grew up, and just he was planning to stop at this one place on the way, and their website said they had food and stuff, and he gets there, they don't serve food anymore. He was just, and of course, I had like packed like tons of snacks in his car and just like made sure he had them, but he was like fixated, to get there. And poor guy, like, so stuff like that can be really draining. Or, maybe you're not having like a food destination in mind and you're just looking for whatever you can find at rest stops, convenience stores, gas stations, or just trying your luck at places that you find along your trip. Trains, that's another way of travel. I can't speak much to cruise ships. It's interesting sometimes what I have found with my clients who do that kind of travel, where the mode of travel is also kind of the experience. Like, the food options are much better there, and it's more about like just not going crazy to the point of physical discomfort every day. So that's a little bit of a different animal. I'm talking more about travel that we do as a means of like getting from one place to another. Um, so, what we'll say, like, a travel day, for unless you work in an industry where maybe you are a pilot or a flight attendant, where you literally are, having to navigate, these settings every day, that you're working. Or if you're someone that, again, if you regularly travel for work, I know when I was growing up, my dad used to travel quite a lot for his job, especially to the West Coast, and he would sometimes have to go to Europe for things, and he was, and then different times, different travel, different parts of the country, and so it was a lot of wear and tear, and definitely not good food choices. Uh, things have changed a little bit, but it's still a topic that comes up a lot. So, if you have a day where you are, go to the airport, you're going to take a trip somewhere. It's not a time to be precious or perfect with your nutrition. I want to just be clear about that. I don't want to be adding stress to your life by making you feel like you have to be hunting down the perfect snack in the airport. That is not a way to live. But, there are some things that when we look at the science of nutrition that can help us feel more functional and also help us offset some of the just annoyances that can come with travel, like constipation and bloating and just some of that like stressed out, foggy feeling that can happen too. Help reduce meltdowns. So related to, like blood sugar crashes or, and just fight the stress that travel brings. Even those who love travel, there's still inevitable stressors, right? Whether it's like stress when you're getting to the airport or the train station or when you're on the road, whether it's stress when you're in that, in that terminal, whether it's like, is it really crowded? Like, what's going on? How much time do you have until you have to be where you have to be? Let's not even get started about airport security. Like, oh man, there are things like I will tease my husband till like the end of our days about some funny airport security experiences that we've had. So, it's like you have to laugh things off, but know that there is stress that is involved. So, I wanted to spend a little time today just sharing a few of my favorite stress fighting snacks and eats to consider on a travel day. So, yeah. All right. So, I think just something to keep in mind, like with travel stress, like there's a lot going on. It can be really stimulating, overstimulating. And just, I'm sure that logically, that stressing about what's happening is not going to make a situation any easier to deal with, but we're human, we can't help it. So don't waste your time beating up on yourself about being stressed, but instead think about, okay, what food choices can I make to help myself feel more grounded? So let me I'm going to back up and just share some of the really basic things. So just point like number one, you need to eat. Eating is really important. It helps us have energy and uh it can when we are in a well-balanced place because we're eating well-balanced meals and snacks, we can feel more resilient against stress. So that's important. And there are certain foods that have stress fighting properties, and I'll highlight a few of my favorites today. And just it's helpful to keep in mind, we can't always do everything or we can't always check all the boxes, and that's okay. This stuff is not about perfection. But in terms of, nutrition on travel days, and I know every person is different, every body is different, but to give you a little peek behind the curtain, what I tend to prioritize in my own life on travel days, in, my personal order of importance is blood sugar balance. So by that I mean having a combo of protein, fat, and fiber spread consistently through the day, because that's really important for energy and stress response. And then hydration, drinking plenty of water, especially, sometimes even a little bit more than you might be used to, especially if you're traveling by air, because air travel can be very dehydrating. And when we're dehydrated, we might feel irritable, foggy, a little more snacky for some people. You might feel like you're not, you might feel kind of foggy. And then another one that a lot of people don't always think about is that it also can contribute to bloating. And travel bloat is just super annoying, especially if you're going somewhere where you want to feel your best and feel really confident. Um, so that's something to keep in mind also. And like, yes, you will probably have to get up to use the restroom more often, but we should be getting up and moving regularly anyway. All right. So another thing then that I focus on is working in stress fighting foods. So foods that have stress fighting nutrients in them, which I'll touch on. But what's good to know is that a lot of those foods also satisfy the other needs too. Vegetables are really high on the list for me, but that's something that if I have, depending on like what time I'm traveling, I might try to front load my day with vegetables or make sure that I'm having a dinner after my travel that gets in lots of vegetables. But for flexibility, I do like using a greens powder or similar supplement. Like I know some of you guys are going to come at me for this, but like athletic greens or AG1 as we're supposed to call it now. Like I tried it and I liked it, you know? Like I think for a travel day where we need a little, just want to get that insurance that we're covering our bases, there are products like that that can be very useful to just get your, your basic like vitamins and minerals plus some antioxidants and other good stuff. So, those things are an option. And I personally find them useful. If you are someone who like, if you go a day without vegetables, it doesn't bother you. Like, cool. I support that. We're all different. But that's something that I tend to bring with me when I travel. So it can help to have a plan. And I don't mean like a super perfectionist meal plan, but just a loose idea of what you can eat at the airport or on the plane. So that might mean like checking out um, what food options are in the terminal. And this also works for if you're traveling like by train or bus, or if you are going to be traveling through an area, just kind of scoping out are there any rest stops on your route. I mean, there are even apps and things like now to help make that easy. So just having a general sense of what's available can sometimes be helpful when you're just in reducing anxiety about what you're going to look for. But just to know that sometimes things like long lines can be a bit of a deterrent, especially if you're in a time crunch. So just to maybe have a few ideas of what might be a good option for you. And then there's like sit down restaurants and stuff too. So if you have more time, that's something to look into as well. Other things to know, you can pack stuff. And it depends where I'm going. I feel like I used to pack a lot more snacks, but I also think that's because I used to travel alone and I wasn't packing things for two people. And I used to, I don't know, now I'm that person. I try to bring as tiny a suitcase as possible. I try to fit like everything in it. So there's just less room for snacks. So I think that's part of it also. There's a big difference between going like on a week-long trip where you need every inch of space in your suitcase versus like 1 or 2 nights overnight for like a conference or something. So there's that. Like if you have the space though, I highly encourage bringing snacks because that way you're saving a shit ton of money. You're bringing things that you like, and you're buying yourself all this time because you don't have to go looking for it. So I'm very pro packing snacks. You don't have to get super crazy about it. Like I've seen some funny videos on social media where there's like a guy unpacking like basically a charcuterie board, like, at a JFK. Like you don't have to do that. You can if you want to. But I think ease of use, convenience, and health, they're all important here. But so let's talk a little bit about um, just sort of like if you are packing things, by the way, practice food safety. Like if you are bringing anything that has to be kept cool, like bring like an insulated lunch bag or make sure that it's in, maybe you bring a little like disposable like container ice, not ice, like those frozen keep food cool things, ice packs, but not actually ice. Those can be really useful. But obviously make sure if you're going through somewhere like an airport where it'll be, scanned, make sure it's, satisfies those requirements. And if you're traveling with any travel companions who are not great about bringing their own snacks, but might be likely to experience hangry meltdowns, I'm not naming names. Maybe they're kids, maybe they're adults, but it can help to bring a backup thing or two that that person enjoys. So, or if they're children, definitely, if you're, in charge, bring everything that they need. Because I know when I was a kid, if it was time to pack for vacation, I would like pack like books and a stuffed animal. And like that was kind of it. So yeah, we all know how that goes. So okay, what to eat? So like I said, let go of perfection. Focus on stable blood sugar, and it's a bonus if you can work in some stress fighting ingredients. And do not forget to hydrate. So okay, so a few of my favorite stress fighting foods that are fairly convenient. So nuts and seeds are a no-brainer. You can bring your own, or you can find them very easily now in a lot of convenience stores, even rest stops. There's also minimally processed bar forms that are great. So like, and I have no relationship with any of these companies. I just happen to really like them. So like Kind has a great, like I love their nuts and spices line where it's less than 5 grams of added sugar. That's been a favorite for a really long time. Those are fairly easy to find. Our X bars, those are awesome. I love that they also have egg white added to give them a little bit of an extra protein boost. And then for my nut-free friends, 88 Acres makes these really awesome protein bars that are made from pumpkin seeds. And they have a little bit of added sugar, like, but not a crazy amount. So I would definitely encourage someone to slip one of those in their bag instead of, relying on like candy bars or paying like $5 for a protein bar at the airport or whatever. Um, but there are also a number of other kinds of protein bars out there too. So I would definitely encourage exploring. But I just happen to like the minimally processed nut and seed based ones, just for simplicity's sake, and getting like just what you need and not so much of the fuckery in terms of like artificial sweeteners and additives and all that nonsense. There's also single serve packs of nut and seed butter. These are awesome for travel for my fellow nut butter lovers. Like, um, you can put these on whole grain crackers and yogurt, oatmeal. Can put them pair them with a banana or apple. So a lot you can do with that. I definitely tend to bring those when I travel just because they're very easy. Um, Other things. So eggs are awesome. I really love eggs as just a healthy anytime food because they've got built-in portion control, which is just convenient. They're also a good source of protein, fat, plus a really important brain boosting nutrient, we'll call it, called choline. Choline is really important for cognitive function. So if you're planning to like get some work done, on your travel day, eggs are a great thing to have. So whether, I think most likely you'll find them hard boiled if you're getting it from like a rest stop or a convenience store, something like that. But you can also, if you are, if you're at a establishment that has like, breakfast foods, there's often like like an egg sandwich that's like just eggs and the bread. And like, yeah, maybe it might not be like whole grain bread or, anything like, you know, super nourishing, but it's less it's still like a good combination of protein and carbs to at least keep you somewhat grounded and focused. um I think I tend to recommend steering clear of the processed meats like bacon, sausage, and deli meats on travel days, and just in general, just I don't know. I feel like they're very salty, so they will definitely contribute to dehydration and bloating a bit more readily. So if that's something that's on your radar, maybe skip those. But we also know they're just not helpful for disease risk considerations. So I feel like those I like to keep those to special occasions when it's going to be something like really incredible. So that's me. But as a dietitian, I do recommend avoiding the processed meats when possible. Like, if like for you, a stick of jerky is just like a really convenient option that's shelf stable. That is something that once in a while I will bring on a trip in case I have a feeling it's going to be really busy and it's going to be really hard to take a break and find something. Like I think those things kind of have their place, but in that case, you want to drink a lot of extra water if you're having that. Oily fish, this one is not something that I think that there's a few ways to approach this one because we know so much about the brain soothing benefits of omega-3 fatty acids, but how do we translate that to like a travel day, right? And I mean, one option is obviously don't bother. But then to know that, and of course, yes, if you are going to a restaurant where they have like cooked fish, and it's a place where you would feel comfortable eating fish. Like I don't recommend like sushi in the airport in like Arizona or something like that. I'd be it's a little sketch, but like, if you're somewhere where it is logical and feels safe. But even things like canned tuna, like in a tuna sandwich, you could. I've had clients bring like pouches of tuna, or like cans of tuna that open on their own. Those are really convenient, especially if you're taking like a road trip or something where you can bring a cooler with stuff. Or you don't even need a cooler for that. But yeah, I'm a big fan of the single serving things of like canned tuna, canned salmon, because you are going to get the benefits of those omega-3s without it being a big deal. So I really like those a lot. And that's really easy to use like a container of that to like dress up like a really sad salad or something that doesn't have much going on. So I like to use it for that, or you can put it with crackers. So the options there. So we also know that berries, especially blueberries, are great for um, like our brain health. So if that's an option, highly encourage it. You can obviously you can bring your own. I have a friend that his friends would always tease him because they like, they would like all get together at the airport, like going to like a bachelor party or something, and he'd show up with like a thing of raspberries, and his friends were like, "Dude, what is this? Come on!" But he was onto something. We know that berries are great for the brain. They're also a good source of fiber, which is helpful if you deal with travel constipation. So, fiber is your friend in the situation. Some places, you will be able to find berries sold like in a container, or if you are on a road trip and I love stopping at grocery stores when I'm on road trips because I love to see what they're like in other parts of the country. Or if I go to other countries, oh my God, my husband, we went to Italy last time. We spent so much time in grocery stores because I just love, honestly, we do this even when we're in our hometown. Like, I don't know. I love walking around grocery stores and just like seeing the places I haven't been before, like seeing what they're like. Um, but yeah, a grocery store is an awesome resource for finding healthy snacks, especially fresh fruit. But fruit in general is great because you're gonna get vitamins and minerals, important antioxidants, like oranges, for example. I love oranges for travel days because it's in a peel. It's not gonna get dirty, and it's packed with vitamin C, which is great for your immune system, which travel does make us more just susceptible to invading pathogens, different germs we're exposed to. um it's also a good source of folate, which is good for our mood. So lots to love there. So I'm a big fan of citrus. Bananas are super convenient because they come in a peel. And with bananas, I just know that they get brown pretty easily. So, just be mindful that if you put it in your bag at 8 a.m., by 8 p.m., it's probably going to look a little different. But I think those are great to be adding to, you can eat them on their own. You can eat them with nuts or nut butter. One of my go-to like easy snacks slash mini meals when I'm traveling is a piece of fruit and some eggs, if I can find them. So that's a great combo. So you have a lot of options with that. So, leafy greens, if you can find them, I highly encourage them just because we do know there's so many health promoting benefits. So that might mean like, are they in a sandwich? Or, is there a salad that looks good to you? I know I talked about the greens powders as like an alternative, but if it's just easier to just make sure that you eat some greens before you leave, or, make sure you eat them at the end of the day, that can be another way to take advantage of that. Um, See, I think I'm not normally a juice person. I will say that it's interesting. People often assume because I'm a dietitian that I love quinoa and that I love green juice. And I really don't like either of these foods. I mean, I despise quinoa. I don't despise green juice, but I think it's kind of like it's really expensive. And like from a glycemic control standpoint, it's like not helpful. It's basically like the sugar from the fruit and the vegetables, and then like I don't know. So that said, on a day where there's not much happening in the vegetable department, but there happens to be a green juice available, I think that, those what I would say with that, the best way to enjoy green juice is with something that has protein and or fat. So maybe you're having it with eggs or a protein bar or some nuts, something like that. So it has their place. Not everybody hates green juice as much as I do. I mean, I hate all juice, but I don't hate, that's a strong word. But I think like green juice, I'm kind of okay with it as long as it's like in the context of a balanced like eating occasion, ideally. But fruit juice, I'm like, don't really bother. Like, but again, if you are having it, like just have it with something with protein or fat. Um, yeah, but we're not even going to talk about quinoa. The whole grains are a good thing to be choosing when available. Like I not just because I hate quinoa doesn't mean everyone else has to hate quinoa. It makes me so sick to my stomach, and I just hate it's just I pick up on the like quinoa has this like bitter this husk to it, and this bitter the saponins, which I think are, if I'm remembering correctly, are actually supposed to like deter predators from eating the plant. So some humans don't digest them very well, and like I've even tried sprouting my quinoa, and I just don't like it enough to go through the effort. But it's a very healthy food, so like if you like quinoa, like do it. It's one of those foods that I'm like I kind of wish I liked it. It's just not going to happen. But and I know that quinoa is technically a seed, but in terms of its macronutrient profile, it's a bit more in that whole grain category. Um, Other whole grains, so oats, super convenient. Yeah, ideally, like you would want them to not like most of the time if you're buying oatmeal, it's sweetened. I understand that, So to counteract the sweetness and keep a better blood sugar in mind, maybe add some nuts to it, or nuts or seeds, some nut butter if you have one of those packs. Or eat like an egg on the side, or if you're having coffee with it, maybe you have a cappuccino, so you're getting with whole milk, so you're getting some protein and fat to balance the carbs. So just a few ideas. Whole grain bread when it's available instead of white bread, that can be another thing to explore. Whole grain crackers, whether you bring your own or you look for something that's whole grain. A lot of my clients have been surprised by this, but if you're kind of just looking like a few like just basic like cracker varieties like we all kind of grew up with um like and there's none of like the gluten-free or like whole grain stuff around. Like I actually don't hate Triscuits. When you look at the ingredients, they're not that complicated. And so if you're like looking for like a you know cracker that's not that bad for you but still really easy to find, that one goes well. I personally love Wassa crackers. I have no I don't they don't pay me to say that. I like those. Sometimes I bring some when I travel. Or for like super high fiber, I love the GG fiber crackers because it's like 4 grams of fiber per like little cracker. So again, if you're trying to keep digestion regular and traveling, very convenient. Um, so just a few ideas. And then other stuff, I love plain yogurt, and it's getting a little bit easier to find in more places. So if that's, I love recommending yogurt. I mean, I love eating yogurt, especially the Greek kind, because you're getting protein, you're getting probiotic bacteria, you're getting some calcium, which is very soothing to the nervous system. And it pairs well with other stuff like fruit, nuts, seeds. I sometimes like to travel with little single serving packs of ground flax and or chia seeds because those are really convenient to add to things. So that's great. Cottage cheese, I also love because it's really high in protein, but just to know that it is pretty high in sodium. So just keep in mind that if you're keeping an eye on things that might contribute to bloating, that could make it a little bit worse. But if you are going to be eating something high sodium, I always say drink plenty of water and pair it with something with potassium, like tomatoes or leafy greens or bananas, avocados, all good sources of potassium, melon, all that stuff. Also, speaking of avocados, those are a great option for travel, especially if you're traveling with someone else. You can just bring an avocado and like cut it in half, and oh God, it's so good. But if you eat that, like, with some fruit or some eggs, I love avocado and hard-boiled eggs on a travel day or like a day where I'm like, I need something like easy. You can put it on whole grain crackers. It's real. Oh, I love avocado so much. I know, millennial. Like, yes, I'm an elder millennial, but still technically, we love our avocados. What can I say? It's one of my favorite foods. Um, Other stuff. So, then there's raw veggies. Now, this, might be easier to bring your own, or if you're on a road trip, but you can find these more, I feel like more often now in convenience stores and the like. So things like raw cucumbers, celery, carrots, tomatoes, which I know technically a lot of these are fruit, but at least cucumbers and tomatoes are. But what's great about these, like they're giving you fiber, but you're also getting hydration. So that's really helpful too. If I have space in my carry-on when I travel, like air travel, I love to bring like a little baggie of cherry tomatoes just because you don't have to worry about refrigerating them. They are just so like sweet and refreshing and just easy. So it's one of my favorite little travel snacks, and they go with so many other things. Other stuff to look for, like hummus and veggies or whole grain crackers. I know I talked to you about, doing like yogurt with nuts or fruit, um, fruit and nuts or nut butter. Hard-boiled eggs go with so many things. And then I think just being mindful when you're making choices in restaurants. I always like to say, if you can, fill half your plate with veggies, a quarter with protein, and then that last quarter, you can put a starch there. Sometimes that'll be easier to do than others. Like I love morning flights, honestly, because it's so easy if I have the time to like just go get an omelet. somewhere. Like I love a veggie omelet on a travel day. But if I'm watching my budget or I'm traveling, at a different time of day, it might be easier to like cobble together a meal with some snacks and stuff like that. Um, yeah, so I don't want to overwhelm you with travel stuff. I think we talked enough about this. Remember, this is not a day to be a perfectionist, but these are just some things to keep in mind next time you're traveling. If you want to revisit this episode and just make a little note of some things to look for or to stock up on for your trip. I hope you found this helpful. And if there's somebody else in your life that could really use this, maybe someone is going on vacation soon and they're trying to stay consistent with healthy habits, share this episode with them. And I would love to hear your thoughts. So, drop me a comment or write me a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. They really do matter and they help me continue to bring you content to improve your life. And as always, you guys, I hope you have a wonderful day. We'll talk soon.